Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm revealing my final projection for the 2024 election. It's been over 4 years of analyzing this race, digging through hundreds of polls, forecasts, and even tracking the latest betting odds. All that hard work, all that analysis has led us right here, to this moment. Back in 2020, I called it spot on, projecting Joe Biden's exact 306 to 232 electoral vote victory. Today, we're aiming to do it again, but this time for the 2024 map. So let's dive in and break it down. We'll start off by looking at the safe states for each candidate, the states where Harris or Trump is almost certain to win by a margin of 12 points or more. No time to waste. Let's get into it. Let's first discuss the safe Trump states: Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, all of Nebraska except its 2nd district, as well as Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Alaska. Kamala Harris, in turn, will be sweeping the West Coast, claiming Washington, Oregon, and California, along with Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the District of Columbia, and the 1st District of Maine. With these safe states in place, we have Kamala Harris at 181 electoral votes and Donald Trump at 125. But this isn't reason for either side to feel too secure yet, given all the competitive states left on the board. Now, moving to the likely states. These are races expected to fall for one candidate by 5 to 12 points, a clear advantage but still more competitive than the safe states. For Trump, I expect strong results in the lower Midwest with Ohio and Iowa, which he has regularly carried over the last 2 election cycles. Just consider the map from 2012. Ohio went to Obama by 3% and Iowa by 6%. Trump managed to move Iowa 15 points to the right within 4 years, winning it by nearly 9.5% in 2016, while Ohio saw an 11-point swing in his favor. He won Ohio again in 2020 with nearly the same 8% margin as in 2016. Trump will likely win these states by around 10 points or more, though reaching 12 could be a stretch, so I'm calling them likely Republican states. Texas and Florida are next. Trump took home both in 2016 and 2020. Texas has been a reliably Republican state since 1976, when it last went blue for Jimmy Carter, and I don't see that changing. Florida used to be one of the most competitive states, but in 2020 Trump increased his margin significantly, winning by about 3.5%. Polls now show him with an 8-point lead there, suggesting another comfortable victory. Maine's 2nd district also falls in the likely Republican column. Trump has consistently done well there and is poised to win it again by a solid margin. With these likely states filled in, Trump's electoral vote count rises to 219, putting him just 51 votes away from victory. Moving over to Harris's likely states, we start in the West with Colorado and New Mexico. In 2020, Biden won Colorado by about 13.5 points and New Mexico by just under 11. Harris will likely carry these states, but by smaller margins, likely around 8 or 9 points in Colorado and closer to 7 in New Mexico. This is still enough to classify them as likely Democratic. Next is Minnesota, which Biden won by just over 7 points in 2020. Harris, though, isn't as strong a candidate in this region, so her margin might come in just over 5 points. I'm marking it as likely Democratic. Moving to the Northeast, we have Maine and New Hampshire. Biden won New Hampshire by about 7.5 points and Maine by around 9.1 points. Harris is on track to win both, but her margin will likely fall closer to 5 or 6 points, so they are also likely Democratic. Nebraska's 2nd district is next, where Biden won by 6.6% in 2020. With redistricting making it more favorable for Democrats, Harris will likely take it by close to 10 points. Finally, Virginia rounds out Harris's likely states. Biden won by 10 points in 2020, but Harris isn't expected to match that performance. I anticipate her margin to come in closer to 5, enough to secure the state, but still a notable decline. After filling in all the safe and likely states, we're left with the 7 true battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada. These are where the election will truly be decided, as the outcomes in the remaining states are mostly locked in. Let's start with Arizona, where Trump is projected to win by around 1 to 3 points. He carried Arizona by nearly 4 points in 2016, but lost by less than half a point in 2020. Current polling shows him leading by roughly 2.6% advantage, growing as we get closer to Election Day. Based on the trend, Arizona is leaning Republican. Similarly, in Georgia, Trump is expected to win by a narrow margin. He lost by just 0.24% in 2020, but polling now has him leading by around 2 points. Given that Harris isn't performing as well as Biden did, Georgia will likely return to the Republican column. Moving on to North Carolina, Trump has held a consistent lead in polling, around 1.5% on average. North Carolina voted for Trump in both 2016 and 2020, and he's likely to win it again, though with a slightly smaller margin this time. North Carolina thus also falls under lean Republican. With Trump at 262 electoral votes, he's now just 8 votes away from the presidency. For him, any one of the remaining 3 Midwest states could clinch it. Pennsylvania is perhaps the most likely of these for Trump, with polls showing him ahead by a narrow 0.3% margin. This race will be exceptionally close, but Trump has reason to be optimistic given strong Republican early voting numbers, which suggest an edge. With all this, our final projection leaves Donald Trump at 270 or slightly more electoral votes, giving him the win if these battleground states play out as anticipated.